A doctrine that says that women cannot lead is nothing less than slander, not just on half of the human race, but on all of the human race. That's why Team Rose is proud to stand for the team line that we will not grant privilege or favor to those who willfully slander women. What are we proposing? A 5-part model. Firstly, organizations who wish to keep their tax-exempt status should appoint a large number of female leaders, reasonably quickly, at every level of their hierarchies. And obviously, we will not be happy with just one or two token candidates. Secondly, insofar as we get tax revenue from this policy, the money will be spent disproportionately to help women and will also be part of the international aid budget. Thirdly, given that implementing this policy requires a reasonably sophisticated tax code and state apparatus, we would imagine that this happens in primarily Western liberal democracies. But we see that our principles apply in any country which opposition can prove to us that such tax codes exist. Fourthly, this debate presumes that the state and the religion are separate, so it does not occur in democracies like Saudi Arabia or Iran, but it does in secular states like India, South Africa, and most of Europe. Fifthly, we realize that some of these institutions carry out genuine charitable activities, and we support this. So we would therefore make all charitable activities tax deductible, just as we allow charity work as corporations to be deductible. Just to be clear, however, we will ensure that these activities are genuinely charitable, so things like missionary work do not apply. However, food aid and such things would. Let's be clear, these organizations would still pay tax on property, assets, investments, and income. So we bring you a 3-part case. Firstly, I will explain to you why tax exemption is a privilege and not a right. Secondly, I will tell you how we get more female leaders on our side of the house. And lastly, my second speaker will be talking on how we empower women all across the globe. On to my first argument. Why tax exemption is a privilege and not a right. We think it is high time to update the archaic policies which favor religion in order to reflect more modern values of equality. We believe that government should have every right to tax-based organization for 2 precise reasons. Firstly, the principle of reciprocity. Religious institutions could not exist without the support continually provided to them by the government. They could not hold property if the government could not hold up the law and the police force which we all pay for. More importantly, they could not exist without the right to free association, speech, and freedom of religion, which is upheld by the police and the judiciary, which once again we all pay for. It is abhorrent that religions can derive such benefit from the taxes we pay and the laws which we uphold, and they do not contribute their fair share to upholding them. Secondly, for as long as religions don't pay tax, the burden on ordinary people is dramatically increased. The general population pays for the billions of dollars of government spending, and while some of this burden falls on the wealthy, a lot of it does fall on ordinary working class people, the poor and women. In our world, it becomes possible to alleviate this burden when the religions pay fair taxes. Team Canada will leave poor women to make up for the greed of religions. So, to be clear, the premise of this debate is that religions owe an enormous debt to society and to the government, and should have been paying taxes for a very long time. However, just as the government take it away, so too can the government give it. We think it could be reasonable for the government to forgive this debt if the religion helps it to promote certain policies. In the same way, creditors might forgive a debt if the debtor did him a favor. It is reasonable for the government to forgive the debt of religions if those religions help to promote certain useful policies. What we propose is to do something of a deal with religious organizations. There is ample precedent for such deals. We already give tax credits to corporations who promote affirmative action in a second or combat climate change. We will forgive the debts of religions which promote female leaders. That's what we stand for. Yes.
Do you believe that the role of men in religious institutions is more important than the role that women play?
We don't think men are more important than religions. We think that religions are not explicitly stating that men should empower women or should regard the women in religious institutions. Therefore, we think that they should have an equal playing field and an equal ground. That's what we stand for in the rules. Now, what's my second point? Substantive. Why this policy results in the appointment of more women? Firstly, how does our motion incentivize change within doctrines? Let's outline why exactly the money involved here will be a sufficient incentive for change within religion. Note that this is an extremely large scale of money that we're talking about. It will impact religious institutions both on a small and on a large scale. On a large scale, when the Catholic Church has to pay tax on the Sistine Chapel, and when it has to pay property tax on prime real-estate cathedrals in every major city in Europe, the church as it currently exists will not be financially viable, as any religious organization would not be able to exist as it currently does. In addition, we imagine that for most religious leaders, the thought of losing their jobs, their buildings, and all the pet projects they've been working on for long periods of time will be a sufficient incentive for them to change their policy. Furthermore, we think that on a smaller scale, with independent mosques and smaller congregations, they will also comply with our policy. We imagine that they will most likely also rather appoint female leaders than close down entirely. as would be the case given that they rely on small donations and tax exemption too. Furthermore, we think these incentives will also screen the particularly hardline and devout leaders within religions. Why on that side? Because every program that a hardline leader wants to promote still requires money. Launching new missionary efforts, converting new followers, or introducing new education programs in order to save souls, panel, these things all require money. We see no reason why they would prioritize but appointing female leaders over every other bit of their doctrine. In addition, panel, we think that it's especially true given that we imagine that at least some religious organizations look on private policy and will then keep their money and the missionary efforts. Given that happens, any church that refuses to comply risks being outcompeted and losing followers as a result. Now, we think that this policy this change will be fairly easy for leaders to make within their religions. Why? Two precise reasons. Firstly, if a religious leader wants to introduce a policy, even if they are doing so for purely financial motives, it is very easy for them to claim that they're doing it for genuine doctrinal reasons. That's why when Pope Francis wanted to soften the church's stance on homosexuality, he was able to back himself up by claiming that the Bible already supported him. He drew on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and said, if a man is gay and loves God, who am I to judge him? Thus he justified an entirely new policy with reference to old, already existing doctrine. We imagine something similar will happen when appointing female leaders. He perhaps would quote Jesus' word that the person with the most knowledge should be the leader or any other thing of sorts. This is especially easy given that religion can be very contradictory and leaders can choose the interpretation that most favors the appointment of women in order to prevent from equality while still adhering to their religion. The second reason why this change will be easy to make. There are men in status quo who want to change doctrine. This is for two reasons. Firstly, they want more converts. They'll get that if they incorporate modern values into their religion. And secondly, they live in a modern world, they absorb modern media, and the idea of female leaders is just by no means alien to them. This means that there are people who exist who want to change doctrine. There's not less resistance for them to do so. Furthermore, and lastly, why is it that this change will be accepted by the members within the religious organization? Four comprehensive reasons. Firstly, it is the nature of religious leaders that followers defer to them because they think they come from a place of higher purpose and that they represent something bigger than the individual. Religious leaders commonly affect politics in a community. They have dinner at people's houses, have the power to win hearts and minds, and as such, they are trustworthy and essential part of communities. Secondly, when women show charisma, knowledge, and dedication, the men who oppose their appointment will come to respect them and learn that they should respect women in a more general sense. Thirdly, with generations, what now seems to be radical ideas become far more accepted, and what we see is that this resentment is going to naturally cease to exist with time. Fourthly and finally, it is just not true that women take no leadership roles in these communities to begin with. There is to an extent a norm of female leadership, and we want our policy to build on that. That's why in an Indian Punchayat, the community councils that is, women routinely take leadership roles. If conservatives can accept women on village councils, they can certainly get used to female priests. For all these reasons, and because we refuse to grant privilege to those who willfully slander women, we're very proud to propose.
First, motion speakers spend freedom of religion is paramount to a civil society which maximizes the rights of its citizens. For that reason, the threshold which the government must clear to intervene against freedom of religion is extremely high. Proposition must prove three things, and all three things, to cross the threshold of a justified intervention. They must prove A, that there is a pressing and substantial problem for the government to alleviate. B, proposition's specific model for intervention is the only way to solve this problem, and C, the intervention will do more measurable good than harm. Today, Team Canada's case will demonstrate that it is impossible for Team Wales to meet these burdens given the genuine characterization of a religious institution which Team Wales has conveniently missed out on. We're going to do this through three constructive contentions. I'm going to tell you firstly about the freedom of faith and then a broader conception of real empowerment. My partner, Armin's second speech, no thank you, is going to give you a point about servants of God and the public. But first, refutation. I want to start with the model that Team Wales brought us. The first idea they gave us is that they're going to require religious institutions to appoint a large number of women, they're going to require them to appoint them quickly, and they're going to require them to appoint them at all levels. We have a few questions about that because that actually was sort of vague when you get down to it, right? What is the timeline? How many women need to be appointed? When it comes to the formalities of the tax code, Team Wales needs to have those answers. We'd also ask you, does a woman need to be the Pope? Really, how consistent are they going to be with forcifying all levels of leadership happening. Another question, would they consider the mother superior of a covenant of nuns to be a female religious leader? We ask you secondly, what if women genuinely believe that their role in the religious structure is not to be a formalized leader? What happens in Team Wales's world when no women volunteer themselves up for this position? In terms of their argumentation, they told us that taxation is a right, not a privilege. We told you that society can also benefit from religion the way that religion benefits from society, and that's why we've negated the obligation to tax like we do with charitable institutions. And if it's true that they're so principally required to pay their taxes, why are they willing to present an exemption if they comply? The only reason is that they actually don't want to separate the church and state. They want to use the church as an arm of the government to promote their politically subjective doctrine. I think this is really tense with the model they brought. We gave you a POI on the roles of men and women in the religious institutions and whether or not they thought they were equal. They gave you a sort of evasive answer in which they said, we want equality, which means no, under the status quo, they don't think the roles of men and women are equal within the religious framework. This means two things. Firstly, it's tense with their concession that women have existing power and existing roles. It means that they just don't value those roles, and I'm going to prove to you why that's a real underestimation of the power of women. First argument about the freedom of faith. The premise here is that this motion violates freedom of religion in a necessarily harmful way. The reason we know this is true is that Prop concedes it. It's their exact mechanism that they use and the trade-off they want to have between the rights of some and the rights of others. I'm going to demonstrate why it is that they've significantly undervalued allowing the most robust incarnation of religious freedom. And here's why it's important.
Question mark.
Religious freedom is a necessary extension of several other rights. It's a necessary extension of freedom of assembly, of freedom of association, and of freedom of expression. It also is a necessary extension of the right to autonomy and the right to self-determination. These are all things that Team Wales seems to value when it comes to the very specific group of women who are religious and who have the aspiration to become leaders. They don't want to apply those values to all members of a society in which rights are prioritization. Here's where it gets far worse for Team Wales. The rights violation that they're engaging in is one which people can buy their way out of. Wealthy congregations are just going to pay the taxes and get the tax status out of the way and carry on with business as usual. So that means that Proposition is only prepared to violate the rights of the poorest within society. That means that Proposition's best case scenario uses extortion to weaponize people's poverty against them. Team Canada finds this intrinsically immoral, and we need Team Wales to get up here and justify a society in which your money buys you more rights. It also is something that gets very limited benefits and not exclusive benefits at that, which brings me into my second argument. This is an argument on a real conception of empowerment, but before that, POI.
When Lord Francis chose to support homosexuality, he made a cold, hard political decision, but framed it as a
I don't think that's a very strategic example for Team Wales to be using, because that's an example for the type of change that they want without the nasty mechanism that they want to use, proving the absolute dearth of a need to intervene in this, which is one of the things they have to do. My argument about real change. The premise here is that Proposition offers an unnecessary and a harmful play. So firstly, we challenge the conception of female empowerment as one on Team Wales which is fundamentally predicated upon secular, urbanized, Western values. Team Canada believes that empowerment is not tantamount to a job title, nor is it tantamount to formalized authority. Power structures within religious institutions are not as rigid as Team Proposition makes them out to be. Remember, religion is not just about giving people a way to believe in a higher power. Religion is also about giving people rules to live by and a way of thinking. So yes, religions typically do have different roles for men and women, but to say that one role has more value and power than the other does a disservice to the countless roles of women within the religious framework. Let's look at nuns within the Catholic Church who don't give sermons every Sunday, but have spread education all around the world for hundreds of years. In the minds of millions of children raised by nuns, women hold a different but a hugely potent responsibility when it comes to activating the lives of their minds. On this basis, it's wrong for the government to tell women that they are oppressed and then ride in on some sort of a white horse. It's up to women themselves to decide that they want change. And if and when religious women decide that they do want this change, there is an existing mechanism for them to realize this change that affirms freedom of religion rather than violating it. The process is as follows. Religion, like the people in this room, places a high value on discourse and debate. This comes in the form of a discussion of different interpretations and read-ins of foundational religious texts. Slowly, when dissenting opinions gain ground, they form a new congregation or a new sect. This is why you have Catholics and Protestants, Shiites, Sunnis, Wahhabis, and Alawites. The difference between these groups is their opinions on what the best interpretation of their text is. Specifically, within Judaism, you have egalitarianism Judaism, which is actually specifically focused on the principle of granting equality within the framework of traditional Judaism. I think that's the best proof there is that we can get the same outcome on team proposition without using an unnecessary intervention on the important freedom of religion. But finally, they make change slower and less likely to happen. Why? Proposition wants this debate to be about the most extreme religious groups that are the least likely to change on their own. These are the exact religious groups that already perceive the modern world to be at war with their God. They believe that God is the highest authority and not the state, and that the state is attacking their way of life by trying to violate that higher authority. This means they leave public society in which they feel threatened and turn inward, they turn insular, making them less receptive to values of liberalism, making them less receptive to the change that proposition wants. They failed on their burdens. We're proud to oppose. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pope Francis made a cold, calculated decision when he decided to soften the Church's stance on homosexuality and say, if a man is gay and loves God, who am I to judge him? He did this because modernizing the Church would attract more followers, that liberalizing the Church would likely make it become more popular in society and more relevant in modern times. We think this is the type of incentive that we create and that we encourage when we put in place this motion, and that's why Team Wales is so proud to stand under the line. For the Team line, we will not grant privilege nor favor to those who willfully slander women. I'll be bringing you a substantive point about why we empower women across the globe, but firstly, let's talk about what we've heard from Team Canada. I'll first be rebutting their facile attacks to our case, then be talking about their freedom of faith point, as well as their second substantive argument. Now firstly, about their attacks to our case. So basically the only attacks that they had were on our mechanism and that we weren't specific enough. No thank you. Firstly, we tell you that we are giving general mechanisms that are going to work different in each case scenario. We don't necessarily have to give you a unique time frame for everything. That's not our burden to take. They then tell us that we have 3 burdens on our side. They tell us that we have to show that this is a pressing problem, no thank you, that the model is the only way to achieve it, and that we get more good than harm. Firstly, on the idea that it's a pressing problem, my first speaker did address this, and I will be talking about this entirely in my second substantive, no thank you. They tell us that we have to prove that it's the only way to do this. No, we have to prove to you that this is a way to do this, and that this is a way that we are going to achieve the aims of equality that we think are so important. We're happy to have policies that occur simultaneously. We're just saying, no thank you, that this is something that we think is good for society, and that is how we achieve less harm than good because we create this type of equality. They never told us what their burdens were, because conveniently, of course, they didn't have any. We think that their burden is to show us why this model won't work, why it won't provide some equality for women, and by the very least, it will result in, no thank you, tax revenue, even if our case doesn't stand, right? So they tell us in response to our case that tax is a privilege, not a right. That we think that no women are going to volunteer for these positions. We think it's completely a distinct mischaracterization to say that no women believe in their religion enough that they would like to lead other members of their church. That's simply untrue. We think that secondly, no thank you, they tell us that that we're trying to use the church as a political tool. No thank you. If the political tool is to make the equality of women a priority, to make girls go into education, no thank you, to be able to empower them to achieve the most that they can, we're fine if that's a political motivation that we believe the church should be doing. They say that we contradicted ourselves when we say that there are women in power, but not women in power already, that this change hasn't already happened. Well, we told you that there are women in political power. And why is this important, right? Because the church right now is bypassing what the change change that's occurring in all other parts of society. In India, women serve in like representative councils. No, thank you. But in religion, women are still uniquely excluded from religion, and that's why this sentence uniquely applies to them. No, thank you. They did not respond to my entire first speaker's argument about why this will work. They simply brushed this aside, and their first speaker completely responds to this. Would like to hear some information about 4 minutes of our speech. Thank you. No. Now to this point about the freedom of faith. They tell us that the freedom of religion is absolute and that it's an extension of identity. 3 responses to this, right? Firstly, if a belief has a harm to an individual, if a belief is causing these individuals to not be able to go to school, as is in the case, no thank you, of values that perpetuate women not having education, not having enough power in society, we think that that belief is irrelevant. Secondly, we don't let racist people who think that there should be segregation, allow their beliefs to be absolute, right? We tell them, no, it's wrong. Men, like blacks and whites, should not be segregated. That's why we have anti-segregation laws that have been passed. Thirdly, the whole idea that identity is absolute is completely incorrect, right? We also think that justice is a belief, but Sharia law is not allowed in courts because it's uniquely harmful and it has insinuations that are uniquely persuasive and harmful, and as such, identity is not relevant in that case. They need to show us why identity in every case is absolute if identity in religion is such an important thing. They tell us how they undermine religion and like these churches will, they tell us how these institutions will just pay tax. No analysis as to any of the reasons why, systematic reasons why we told you we get women appointed is true. No, thank you. They tell us that people will pay to discriminate and how this is immoral. Firstly, the payment in itself, when people have to give tax, this lessens discrimination. So essentially their principle of how you're paying to get out of discrimination isn't true because the tax money is lessening discrimination by promoted policies towards women. Secondly, there's a difference between paying to do a good thing versus refusing an incentive to do a bad thing. Government sell licenses to do things like dump chemical waste, or sell permission to dump CO2 in the atmosphere. But by doing this, something that's bad for society, to the company, the religion is like harming people as a whole, right? We can't pay everyone directly, so people give government compensation to the representatives of these people. No, thank you. Now to the second point, lastly, about how the empowerment doesn't mean you should appoint these women. We think when you appoint these women, you result in the same benefits that they have already, right? You result in good religion, you result in people who are devoted to their faith, but you also get like promoted ideologies far more in your world. No, thank you. They tell you that the role of women is different and accurate and equally potent. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think it is okay and that women are equal when half of your population doesn't go to school, when they're not allowed to have the basic right to be educated, right? Because that's what happens in these societies. When you perpetuate the idea that women should be housewives, women should clean the kitchen, women don't have the responsibility or the ability to defend other people. They tell us lastly, no thank you, that organic change is extremely important, and how this is something that has happened already. We already gave you reasons as to why this is the case. Not only that, we tell you that these churches need an incentive to change their ideologies. If there's a difference between someone wanting to do something and someone actively having the incentive, a man actively having the incentive to take away some of their privilege in order to promote these policies. No thank you. Now on to my substantive point about how we empower women. First, yes, POI.
Okay. Would you forbid churches from excommunicating homosexuals?
We think that if that was consistent with our policy, that is something we'd like to do in other policy as well, but that's unfortunately not this debate in Canada. On Team Wales, we are going to empower women across the globe on both a principled and practical level. On a principle, we don't think that arbitrary factors about a person's body should ever be able to be used as a justification for discrimination. The fact that we free women from such discrimination would in and of itself be a reason to do this policy. Just as we wouldn't stand for the apartheid law that discriminates against blacks and whites, we similarly think discrimination based on things you can't choose is something we should absolutely not tolerate. Firstly, this policy gives women access to justice and arbitration, whereas otherwise they would have been silenced. In conservative communities, many women would rather go to religious arbitration than the state alternative. This becomes much easier when women are in power, right? Because they don't want to talk about domestic abuse, about sexual assault, when only men are able to do religious arbitration. At the very least, on our side, we get a woman no longer having to suffer her personal agonies in silence because she knows a woman will represent her in a court as well. Secondly, in a religious court as well. Secondly, this will foster the notion that women can be independent, autonomous, and educated. With female leaders appointed, there will be an expectation that women should be educated and prepared for roles as leaders. Parents will realize that it's commendable to give girls a choice and give them the opportunity to be educated, and will ask for more education on this side. Ultimately, we want women across the world to lift their eyes to the horizon, to achieve as much as their hard work will allow, which is why we're so proud to stand under the team line that we will not grant privilege nor favor to those who willfully slander women. Thank you.
The second proposition.
Thank you. Team Wales claimed that they proved a pressing need for the policy they want to implement today. And yet, their best case scenario for their policy was an outcome that was achieved without the very policy that they were proposing in the first place. It is for exactly that reason that Team Canada said that they had to prove that this was the only option available, a burden they rejected but didn't reject correctly. This is why we're so proud to propose under the case line that empowerment comes through, not against, faith. I'd first like to start by pointing out that Team Wales never responded to the model clash that Team Canada brought about how many women were needed to be instituted, whether we needed a female pope, whether Mother Superiors counted as leaders, and the fact that charitable activity being tax exempt was a major underselling of their burden. The third speaker is going to have to respond to that. But I'm going to look now at refutation, and then rebuild my partner's arguments, and then move on to my constructive argument, servants of God and the public. First, Team Wales claims that tax exemption is a privilege, not a right, and that society, and that effectively churches owe society for all the support that society gives them. No, thank you. First, this argument is an argument in favor of removing tax exemption in general, not an argument against removing tax exemption specifically to their policy. So what they need to prove is why they need to remove tax exemption based on discriminating against religions based on the internal contents of their faith, something this argument never proved. The second argument Team Wales brought me was this idea of how we're going to force change to happen, but still protect nonprofits at the same time. Why isn't this possible? Because even if they allow tax exemption for nonprofit work, at the point where their constructive says that churches will close down because of property tax, it is those churches that are the source of all of that nonprofit work in communities, so they can't have most of those things. But also, they say that they'll remove tax exemption for missionary activity. But missionaries often do a lot of nonprofit work themselves in communities and in other countries in the world. How are they going to tax exempt one half of the activity that missionaries do, but not the other half of the activity that missionaries do? This is why they still don't protect nonprofit activity on their side of the house. But the argument that they told us that we needed to respond to was about how change is going to be accepted under Team Wales' side of the house. There's a few problems with this. First, their POI about Pope Francis works against them. People accepted what Pope Francis said because it was coming from someone who had religious authority. But on Team Wales' side of the house, people are not going to see this as a religious interpretation, but as a state interpretation of doctrine, which is why people won't accept it. This is especially important when Team Wales concedes that Scripture doesn't explicitly rule out women for leadership, meaning people have to be able to buy into it, something they're not assuring on their side. Then in response to the third POI, they say, well, if excommunication was inconsistent to their principle, then they wouldn't support it. It's their job to tell us, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's inconsistent with their principle, not Team Canada's job. The final 1 minute argument they brought you is this idea of how people will basically rally behind opportunities for girls. There are 3 billion Muslims and Christians in the world. Do they seriously think that families within those communities don't support opportunities for women, don't support women in leadership? Indonesia is a Muslim country that has had a female, that currently has a female president. I don't understand how this is an argument that they can make. Well, let's look at Rebuild. In response to Team Canada's first argument on the freedom of religion, Team Wales says, if a belief is causing harm, such as not letting women go to school or racial segregation, then we have to stop it. But their model doesn't actually solve any of those problems, ladies and gentlemen, because they're not changing segregation laws, they're going after church tax exemption. But furthermore, Team Canada can also support ensuring that women can go to school. Team Canada can also be against racial segregation. These are civil and political rights that don't have to do with what happens in houses of worship behind closed doors, ladies and gentlemen. But most crucially, they didn't respond to my partner's analysis on the socioeconomic discrimination, how you're literally using the poverty of individual communities against them to force them to try and enact a different belief that is a state-imposed belief. It's the really important content Team Wales never contended with. Yes?
Please enlighten me. What's the moral difference between a man believing a black person is lesser than him as a leader and a woman is lesser than him as a leader?
The moral difference between a man believing that a woman is lesser than a woman believing that a man
A black
is lesser
person.
than well, the difference is that, like, in either case, like, people are entitled to their beliefs. What you're against is, like, them being implemented in terms of policy. So you need to prove how you're going to stop it being implemented as policy, like not going into people's homes and making them change all of their minds. So now I'd like to move on to the constructive argument, the third constructive argument for Team Canada, servants of God and the public. The premise of this argument is that removing tax exemption comes at the expense of the non-profit work religious institutions do, which is harmful to women and destructive to communities. Both teams agree that there are in some cases going to be religious institutions that will outright reject the attempted enforcement. But on Team Canada, we would tell you that number is a lot greater than Team Wales is willing to admit. What is the problem with this? Well, let's look at some of the activities, the non-for-profit activities that religious institutions do that Team Wales is going to be skimming the top off. First of all, general activities such as providing homeless shelters, such as providing drug rehabilitation, especially in those poorest communities that they're leveraging where the state has failed to provide the services themselves. Second, faith-specific activity, such as spiritual counseling, such as faith-based education, the interpretation of scripture, things that the state necessarily can't provide because the state doesn't have the religious power and authority that churches do. But third, a lot of these services that religious institutions provide are actually benefit women the most because of things like childcare and daycare, because of fundraising for single mothers who have to raise families by themselves, ladies and gentlemen. These are things that Team Wales is going against. What's the problem with this? All of these things are funded out of donations. Some of these donations go to missionaries, some of these donations go to the churches that they're going to shut down. Why is this bad? First of all, less services means people are left in the dust. Since not-for-profit activity, by definition, spends all of their money on helping people, by cutting some of that off, necessarily some people are not going to be able to get services. But we think it's wrong for Team Wales to be able to decide that the state can force a woman to quit her job to take care of her children because there isn't enough childcare in her community if it means that there will be a female priest at the altar. We don't see how Team Wales can justify this feat of social engineering if it is fought on the battlefield of forcing a homeless person to have to go through the bureaucratic system of welfare that they might have been excluded from before, rather than getting help from the church that they depended on for so long. But second, women are often the very people that lead all of this not-for-profit activity. So for example, women in Iran buy textbooks and give them to women who are forced to stay at home, which is a big part of the reason that there are now more female than male scientists in Iran. Unfortunately for Team Wales, a lot of missionaries are the ones that go and deliver these textbooks to people, something that they wouldn't tax exempt. But third, often this affects the poorest communities the worst because it is those communities that depend on these essential services more than any other. Often the church is the lifeline of an entire community. And if Team Wales is willing to close down that house of worship to enforce a political agenda on that religion, we say that is awful, we say that is abhorrent. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Wales aims to use the houses of the holy as a grounds for an experiment in social engineering. In defense of the freedom of religion, in defense of women who make religion the dynamic living organism it continues to be, and in defense of places of worship that are the beating hearts of so many communities around the world, Team Canada is so proud to oppose.
It's very easy to give it in this debate because it was quite telling when the second speaker decided to drop the entire principal argument after our responses. So first I'll talk about the principle and as to how Team Wales has already won the principle convincingly. And secondly, I'll prove to you why the social reaction they are anticipating won't be as massive and we will have better outcomes in our world. Before that, I'd like to have a general criticism about their entire case, right? If they're going to predicate an entire argument on charity, they must listen to the model to start with. Because in the model we clearly told you, we will have tax-deductible options for churches who want to do charity. We already do it for corporations, right? When corporations want to provide to charity, they can subtract that amount of money from tax they pay. Which means that churches will still be able to give food to the poor and still be able to make sure that people don't go to the beds starving. And we think the churches will take this option, right? Because it's a sin to let people starve. And you can take the tax-deductible option and give money and food to people who are starving. So like the entire second argument's logical link is missing because these charities can still work. We think it will work better. But what happens in our world is that the money that the church accumulates on property, on the paintings they hold in Sistine Chapel won't be used to promote sexist policy anymore. That's the real benefit they couldn't take down. All right, let's start talking about the principle. Here, the speaker's first point was, she had like two things to say here. First is that this is an extension of a basic right, and secondly, churches can buy their way out of it. Rich churches can buy their ways out of it. About the extension of basic rights, note that we responded to it by saying that no right is absolute. Yeah, right to free speech exists, but we still ban hate speech if it means that speech will be used in a negative way. Secondly, that right has to be balanced relative to women's right to be free from discrimination. And they never could tell us why women should be continually discriminated in their side of the world. But secondly, they try to nuance it, right? They try to say that, oh, it's theologically women are different but still equal. That's because there's a massive social indoctrination by the patriarchy to make women believe in this. When Islam started, Hazrat Muhammad's youngest wife Aisha was a scholar, was a judge, was a warrior, and was a governor. But as things moved on, other caliphates and other men in positions of power made religion more sexist. So it's not like religion is selectively sexist, but men in positions of power inside religions are sexist. And in their world, that never changes, and I'll tell you why it changes in our world as well. But finally, we told you how. Really, the point about buying their privilege out does not also work, right? Because firstly, if the result of that buying their privilege out is massive improvement for women in leadership, and also the tax money that we are getting will invested in women's education and all other policies that are pro-women, I think that's a good outcome. But secondly, second speaker gave you an analogy to it. She told you that we already allow governments to sell permits for dumping waste. Like many governments sell permits for dumping nuclear waste, because even though there's a minute social harm, in that case, even the rich companies can get away with their privilege, it's still beneficial because that money can be used for more more policies that is beneficial for all. So in their world, that thing clearly does not work. But finally, when I asked him a POI, what's the moral difference between racism and sexism, he had no answer to it. Which is to tell you that sexism is as pernicious as racism. If a man cannot categorically say that if a white man cannot categorically say that a black person is worth less than me, religions should not have the right to say that women are less worth than men. I think that's categorically a problematic thing, and this is akin to racism, something we cannot tolerate at all. Given all of these things are true, our principle stands. Our principle was simple, and their second speaker's response was extremely feeble and weak. Our principle was, churches owe a massive debt to the government already. Note that they couldn't take down Odo's analysis with regards to it. We told you that that there's a principle of reciprocity. The church literally survives because the state protects its right to survive. And secondly, we told you how when church doesn't pay up, then poor people and women has to pay up. And it's immoral to shift that burden of payment to people who are already vulnerable. They had no response to it. Given that thing is true, then we told you with the creditor analysis, that the church owes a debt to governments, and the government can make a deal out of this debt. The government always makes deals out of people. Right? When they settle with corporations, when a corporation owes something to into a government or violates its laws, the government makes a deal in a private settlement in the court. So the government has a right to do whatever it wants with the debt that's owed to the government. And they have conceded that churches owe a debt to the government, both financially, both from the principle of reciprocity. That's why the government can do whatever it wants with that debt, and we have won that principle as well. I'll move on to the efficacy before I'll take point 15.
Would you force the Catholic Church to appoint male nuns or male father superiors?
Alright, like this tactic of like trying to get forced answers out of us won't really work. You have to tell me how that's principally different. Like, please enlighten me in your last speech of the day how that's principally different from our side. But take your principles off at least. Alright, in terms of efficacy, ladies and gentlemen, this rebuttal is very crucial. Because they try to make you believe that religions are conservative, are oppressive, and they are modern, and they're good. There's a tension in the characterization. But what's important is to get the distinction between why Pope allowed homosexuality and why he won't allow women leadership. Because men won't voluntarily hand their privilege away. The reason why Pope was okay with homosexuality is because it affects gay men primarily. So a man in a position of power inside the church's hierarchy won't hand his promotion to a woman. He will hold the promotion, right? Which is why in affirmative action policies, men won't handle their leadership position away. The government has to force organizations to force men to hand their leadership positions away. They have to tell me why men in positions of power will have any incentive to hand their privilege away, and we think they're going to do it. Given that's true, the knowledge of affirmative action is clearly consistent. When that would happen internally, we must have an external push, and they have conceded our external push is going to work, which is why the second speaker's analysis is that charities won't exist, because he believes that our push is going to work. Now the burden on the third speaker thus becomes to tell me why men in positions of power in churches and mosques will voluntarily give the leadership position away to women, and I think that's a rather hard burden to prove, and they won't be able to do it. Cool. But secondly, we clearly told you how organic change does not happen. Now, this is quite unfair on them as well, because they try to tell us that their attack on our model is that, oh, what's the timeline? Oh, how many leaders will you have? Now, I want to ask them what's their timeline, because I'm going to 2,000 years after the birth of Jesus to have a woman in a leadership position. And patriarchy hasn't given me a female leader, ladies and gentlemen. What's your timeline, Team Canada? Will you give me a female leader after 3,000 years? I want to know your timeline and how it happens. But secondly, the efficacy point clearly does not work as well. Because we told you how churches will be able to provide charity, and furthermore, churches have every incentive to change. The final question remains, will leaders comply? And they couldn't beat that thing down. Because we told you leaders have every incentive to comply. Why? Because it's a two-way street. Leaders lobby against abortion policies in the White House. Leaders lobby against any policy they don't like, which means they depend on the government to a very large extent. Given that's true, leaders have every incentive to comply with this change. And given that's true, it's easy for leaders to manipulate this theology. A leader can say, just like gay men are allowed now, women are allowed as well. I think it's totally consistent with our theology. And if leaders do it, our policy is successful. At best, we have shown you this taxation is going to work. At worst, we are getting massive amounts of tax money, billions of dollars, which we are going to reinvest in women's rights and women's education. Extremely proud to stand against sexism, extremely proud to stand in proposition.
Team Proposition banks their case on 2 points. Firstly, that it is objectively principally wrong to discriminate against women or to not allow them to have opportunities that men have. And the second point being that they're actually effective at protecting women. That's what they need to prove to you in this debate. I'm going to have 2 areas of clash about the principle and about the effectiveness of empowering women. Before that, a couple of things. I want to clarify 2 points from Team Opposition that were completely mischaracterized and strawmanned by Prop. The first, why our argument about churches being able to provide fewer services is still a huge harm that they have to contend with. They can't just say that they're going to reinsert tax-exempt status when churches have non-profitable NGO work. The reason for that is a lot of their essential services they provide are directly linked to their religious activities. So missionaries are the ones that go into communities, like the missionary women who go into communities and provide them with training about how to use contraception. They host food banks and all those sorts of things on their own property, but they're getting rid of that with their property tax. So our points about the impacts of getting rid of essential services on communities still stand. Second thing I want to clarify, they're pushing onto us that we have to Let me clarify this. One, this point that they're making is hung on them proving that what we're doing is actually sexist. I'm going to debunk all of that in my speech, so you can wait for that. But second of all, the clear difference here is that racism says that one race is good, the other race is bad. What we're saying is we're protecting the ability of religions to say women are important, but they're important in different ways, and it's up for women within those communities to determine what their role is within that religion and what it means to them to be an empowered woman. We are saying that it's important for women to be empowered, but it's not the role of the state to impose on those religions what it means to be an empowered woman. Before I get into my two areas of clash, I want to point out a strategic point about side proposition's case. They have a tension in their characterization about how religions feel about women in the church. The first narrative that we get is that these religions are so oppressive towards women, the government needs to intervene to protect them from discrimination. Women can't even go to school or access basic social services. The second narrative that we get is these churches are already being forced to liberalize because their congregates are moderates because they want to attract and appeal more congregates, and they point to movements around the world. What is the strategic impact of this tension? If the first narrative is true, that these men and that these religions are so conservative, they undercut all of their benefits. Because one, if it is so antithetical to these religions to not appoint women, they just won't follow this motion. But two, even if they do appoint them, those women will be labeled as heretics, they will be mistreated, and none of their benefits about respect occurring will ever accrue. But if the second narrative is true, that these religions are already liberalizing, they haven't proven to you the necessity of this motion. And in fact, they've dropped. Not only this motion isn't necessary, but it actually hampers liberalization. Because religions need to feel secure in their ability to control their narrative. And how you make people feel like if they support women's rights, they're supporting the state's attack on their doctrine, the state's attack on their freedom. More importantly, the fact that they haven't resolved this tension is harmful for them for the simple reason that they bank their case on proving that they protect a group of women, that they protect this vulnerable actor. But the point at which their characterization about how actors will act is unclear. You can't believe that any of their benefits will accrue. Versus on our side of the house, we tell you that the impacts are certain. The impacts of people losing the ability to access their faith. The impacts of poor communities losing out on essential services. I have no idea what the world of proposition looks like by the end of this debate. That being said, two areas of clash. Firstly, on the principle. The major claim that we get at the top of prop is that religions are only able to exist because of services from the state, giving them a privilege is unfair. Panel, you should not weigh this point about tax exemptions being unjust as the most important theme in this debate. The reason being, they are very willing to reinstate that tax exempt status, both if they appoint women to certain positions and if they can provide social services and goods. That is to say that their principal argumentation isn't really about tax exempt status being unfair, it's about socially engineering religions to achieve a certain outcome. Their more important claim that all of their material is predicated on is the assertion that it is objectively wrong to not have women in positions of power because men have opportunities that women don't. I have two responses. My first is that this argument assumes that the moral code that society has is the same as the moral code within a religion. People opt into a religion because it provides them with values upon which they center their decisions, upon which they can construct their faiths and their identities. It is an intensely personal and private decision when you opt into a religion because it tells you the type of person you want to become. There are many things we may think are objectively wrong or not fair. So for example, when an individual refuses a life-saving blood transfusion for religious reasons, or when parents teach their children creationism. Those may seem unfair and unjust to us, but they're just people opting into their own moral code and their own sets of values. But the second and more important response here is the assumption on team proposition is that equality means the same thing, even if it's important, outside and inside of a religion. We've never heard a response to the point that if you are a woman in your religious community and people respect you so much because you're their nun, because you're their mother, because you're a special teacher, they see you as their connection to God and they value your respect so much. So we've never heard why it isn't equal if women are respected in other positions, why it isn't equal if they have the same opportunity to flourish in other respects. The next area that I want to look at is the idea of empowering women. The major claim that we get from their side of the house is that this motion will lessen discrimination towards women because religious institutions are now incentivized to appoint women. And in cases where they aren't, the government spends money to help women. And within religions, women are seen as role models. Before I refute that, sure.
Ma'am, your second speaker concedes that female leadership is consistent in theology, Why would opportunistic men leaders hand their privilege away?
So, well, part of your case is saying that they're liberalizing already and that they have an opportunity to change. Our case is that we think that there is a movement within these religions to liberalize and to give women positions of power. If there isn't, we would say that it is up to the women within those communities themselves to determine what equality means to them. And if they're happy with being in a position where everyone else respects them because they're their nun, they're their teacher, that's okay, because it's about what's important to those women, not the state passing down Western imperialist notions of what it means to be equal, what it means to not be discriminated against. Let me respond to their mechanism of how they actually protect women. The first assumption is that their mechanism will actually work in the wealthiest and most conservative churches. We say that they're going to swallow up the tax. And even if the government now has more money to spend on women, not sure what that means. Like, if their problem that they characterize is that the problem is that within religions, people don't respect women, they don't solve the problem even if the government on outside spheres is spending more money on women. They dropped our point about the disproportionate burden on poor churches, on the churches that have to make a choice between their faith and staying alive. But critically, the assumption on their side of the house is that within a religion, your respect comes from your title and your status. It doesn't. It comes from the fact that people, your congregants, believe that you are appointed by God, that you are their connection to faith, to spiritual, to the divine. What they do is they say to these people, the state is now determining who the person that represents you and your faith is, and people won't buy into that. At best, it looks like the woman is tokenized. She's able to give a 10-minute sermon, but people don't really care. At worst, it looks like that woman being called a heretic and saying that she's a traitor to her religion. At the end of this debate, they haven't proven that they're able to protect the most vulnerable actor that they banked their entire case on protecting. Moreover, what we told you is it actually gets worse for the women who in the status quo are already pushing for their liberalization, pushing for them to have respect within these religions. Don't make this a war on God. Don't make this a war against the state. Make it the ability of women to fight for their freedom and the war that they want to fight themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Today, Team Will's North Star represents the government's mandate to provide equality. But they didn't show why the government is also justified in interfering on rights and freedoms that they don't seem to prioritize. They didn't tell you why this is actually a good way to get equality, or the only way to get equality. That's why Canada's won. I'll be distilling this debate and why that's true through two questions. Firstly, what's the role of the government? Secondly, what's the best path to equality? Firstly, on the role of the government. They told us the government must implement equality again and again and again. We told you on Team Canada it's a little bit more complicated than that. The government has to consistently strike balances and find ways to compromise. Today, Team Wales did not want to compromise. In this case, it's a compromise between freedom of religion and all the other rights and freedoms to which it's ancillary. Team Wales never contested these rights or their value or validity, so we're left wondering why the rights of some are more important than the rights of others, and why their conception of this balance is more valuable than ours, which they've never really contested. We told you that, given that Wales doesn't seem to contest that religious freedom is important, they need a really good justification for violating it. It needs to be effective, it needs to be beneficial, and given the magnitude of harm, counter to what they want you to believe, they actually do have to prove that this is the best or the only way to do it. Let's get into the second, more important question about what is the best path to equality, accepting that this is something the government should try to get. They gave a model in which they're either going to take money from the church to fund women's empowerment, or get the church to empower women itself. This path to equality was grossly oversimplistic, and it hung on some assumptions that weren't proven and a few links that weren't made. Let's go through this. Number one, they aren't solving a problem that actually exists. We gave you consistent and frequent examples of how women hold lots of power and responsibility within the religious framework. If they still don't think that that's true, they should broaden their scope a little bit, and they should go to someone whose second mother was a nun in Catholic school, ask them what they think of women as leaders, and then come back and give us their case again. Let's say a problem does exist with power imbalance in the religious framework. That's on Team Wales' best ground. Let's let women decide that they have a problem. Let's let women decide that something needs to change. Let's not Bigfoot or white knight them. Their response to this is that men won't cede their power, and they talked a lot about Pope Francis saying that homosexuality is okay. I don't hear any reason why it was that straight people were willing to cede their power in some sort of way that men aren't willing to cede their power. I think queer people struggled for this right, for this emancipation, very, very hard. And I don't think they've been very fair on Team Wales by painting the Pope as this magnanimous guy who woke up one morning on board for the gay agenda. I think gay people within the religious framework said, we need a change, and then fought for it without the intervention of the state. Okay, women in religion are already doing this. We empirically disprove this idea that men won't cede their power by showing instances where men didn't have to cede their power for women to get the power. They formed new congregations, they formed new sects where they did it for themselves. Rather than asking the government to give them power, rather than asking men to cede their power, women got up and took it. This prevents their ability to do so. Team Wales told us that inequality in religious frameworks causes mass power imbalances in all spheres worldwide, but they never made the link. We gave you evidence that is quite the contrary. We also gave you evidence that their concern for equality doesn't seem to apply to the socioeconomically disadvantaged or to poor congregations. This is something that they not once responded to, so we don't know why class inequality is somehow better than gender inequality. On the note of things that Team Wales never seem to respond to, why is it that they don't want to talk about insularity? Why is it that they are prepared to launch an escalatory attack and perceived war on God, which directly undermines all of their claims? They failed on all three of the burdens that we set out for an intervention against freedom of religion, and because they never told us that freedom of religion wasn't important, Team Wales has lost the debate. Team Canada has won. Thank you.
Was inconsistent on almost everything they said. Team Wales brought to you a case that was consistent, a case that was comprehensive, and a case that actually helped the most vulnerable people and the people that we wanted to tell you were the most important people in this debate. Let's look at these inconsistencies first before I talk to you about what the world looks like now and how we disagree, and whether or not this policy will work, and whether or not we empower women, and lastly, who gets better charity, as this seems to be a kind of confusing point of contention. Firstly, they started off this debate by telling us that we had three burdens, that this was a pressing problem, that the model was the only way to do it, and that this will result in more good than harm. We responded to these three burdens in my speech when I told you that these burdens were illegitimate and that they did not stand in this debate. Then the third speaker kind of shifted these burdens. She said in her opening, we think that their burdens are now, they have to prove to us that this discrimination exists, and that we have to prove that we can solve it. Thank you for those three burdens. We think we do that. Now, they tell us that government should make balanced trade-offs, literally in their reply. That's exactly what we're doing. This is a balance. This is a trade-off between more tax and between empowering equality, which we think is extremely important and worth this trade-off. Now let's talk about what the world looks like now. Team Canada told you that women are already empowered because, nuns are a thing. They told us that freedom of religion is absolute, that theology already permits female leadership, and that organic change is already happening, and that's really great. And then they lastly tell us that more churches are coerced into this, and this is principally incorrect. Note, they dropped their freedom of religion point right after their third speaker actually was name dropped in their reply speech, right? They clearly don't believe their principle that freedom of religion is absolute because they didn't respond to any of our analysis as to why that's not the case. Now let's talk to you about what we stood for on Team Wales and why our case wins this debate and why we rebutted all of their arguments while they remained unresponsive to ours. We told you that equality is a priority. We give you systematic reasons why women are underprivileged in society, why they don't get an education because men think they need to protect them and that they're great places in the household. We tell you that this tax is a deal, that we believe in taxes, that tax exemption is illegitimate, but we believe that equality is more important and that that's why this motion is coming to pass. We tell you that we don't think that men are going to want to hand their power away, that that's why this hasn't happened already. And this is crucial in this debate, right? Because they told us that we need to show you why gradual change will already happen. And this is the reason that we pushed all the way down the bench, not in conjunction with my first speaker's entire analysis, right? Because we don't think that men have an incentive to do this unless they're pressured to by the government because the government thinks it's such an important thing. This is why we win, right? They lastly tell us that we have to show you why this is the only way, where our policy is mutually exclusive to everything else. No, ladies and gentlemen, we don't. We have to show you why this policy is going to be a great way to empower women, a great way to promote equality and to spread social values we believe are extremely important in society, and any other policy that is willing to support this, we support as well. We give you clear reasons for this. They tell us that, lastly, on whether or not this policy will work, they tell us about gradual change, that no, you're not going to get any charity if we don't do this, that this is a massive, massive harm, and that the church isn't going to oppose this because it comes from the state. Interestingly enough, this whole argument came out in their third speech, but then they also in their third speech told us about this idea of backlash, and that, oh, finally, this is when we realized that this is the harm that they've been talking about all along, because they tell you that there's massive harm, but then it isn't until the first speech where we realize that, oh, it's because the church will resent this. Now, what do we tell you on Team Wales? We tell you that these leaders will comply. We give you mechanisms why this is the case, unresponded to. We give you reasons why society will accept it, and why this change is going to be a subtle incentive for churches to make this shift. Not necessarily a way for them to oppose the government, a way for them to slowly accept this change in and of themselves from the church's point of view. We give you our entire third argument about why we empower women and why this results in the tangible benefits we talk about, right? We talk to you about justice and arbitration and how women don't have this right now, and how this doesn't mitigate any of their points about how women have different roles in society because they still deserve justice, right? Lastly, because they misunderstand our tax-deductible, entire tax-deductible point about how, and one is scaremongering until the charity ends, when in reality, we still support that charity on our side. And because we bring you to the team line that we will not give privilege nor favor to those who willfully slander women, we are so proud to propose.